So today I'm just gonna spotlight and talk about the boss battles and a little bit of boss battle discussions for villains. We're gonna talk villains for this game, and I'm not sure how the boss battles are gonna be, but from what I found out and what Diego was talking about in the interview for Fair Play Labs, from what the everything new discussion that I did, we're gonna finally get boss battles in this game for the new Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 this fall, and I cannot wait to see how this plays. I wonder who's gonna be a boss, and what are some of the characters that you guys think could fit that role. And I think Shredder could be one of them. If he's not a character, I don't know if he's in the game. Hopefully they didn't cut him out of the roster and turn him into a boss. But one thing I did for him is I actually added him in this list as a boss, but I'm gonna get into that and many other characters I want to talk about. But I'm excited because this game is finally getting boss battles, it's getting a story, and just the crossplay. So it's like everything that I wanted and wished for this new game and a sequel that I was originally wishing for, new updates for this kind of game, because the arcade was a little bit short and it was a lack of modes, and they even really changed and beefed up this game where there's going to be a story and boss battles, and we'll be able to unlock characters. And I wonder if some of these bosses will be included as a unlockable and will count once you beat the boss. Well, it makes me think of Kart Racers 3 real quick, just a little bit. See how you had to take on some of those characters: Gerald, Powder Toast Man, Genie, Reptar, Ren, Ren and Stimpy, or Stimpy. Just thinking of all the different bosses. Squidward was a boss, April, Powder Toast Man, it goes on and on. Ablino was a boss. Defeat the boss, you get a new character. You beat them in a race, you get the character. And you have to win. And even tough bosses in Nickelodeon Car Racers 2. Shredder was a boss, but you had to beat him to be able to unlock him. So it was just pretty cool to really see that happen. And they can do something similar to that in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, defeat the boss, get a character. And they could be playable characters. Maybe not, it might not be the case for some of them, but I think Vlad Plasmius is probably going to be one of them. You beat him, you unlock him, he becomes a playable character for the roster. And that's probably the only way to unlock him. Guess we'll wait and see. But I really am excited to share some of my characters that I wanted to share today for this video. And you guys could share some of the bosses that y'all want to see, some of the villains, and a little bit more, I'll say, going towards the end of what they could possibly do to add more. So let's talk all about the villains, just different things like that. I want to start with SpongeBob's world. He got a good amount of villains that could be good to fit from his world, and SpongeBob and Sandy and all them could team up, showcasing that karate to be able to take them down. It'll be awesome. And you start with SpongeBob anyway, just battling through it. But we'll see how it plays out. But I wanted to select King Neptune, and I want to just bring up a stage real quick. Let's just do it a little bit different. Let's go to the training a little bit. So, whoops.
Select your fighter.
That was the wrong mode. I just clicked on it so fast. Training. So just pick a random character. Try to get started. Smashing! Alright, I just want to do that. But anyway, let's open this. I wanted to just bring up the stages a little bit for this video. And for SpongeBob's world, I wanted to select King Neptune as a boss. Maybe he could be an ideal boss fight, and he appeared in SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. He could be one of them. And then I wanted to pick this particular stage, the Flying Dutchman ship. He's a background character, and I feel like since he's a background character, maybe see how he looks in this game, he could probably look a lot better in the new game. Maybe he could be a boss, unless they decided to bring him back into the same stage and he looks a lot better. He probably won't end up being a boss. The Flying Dutchman probably will return as another background character. But I slipped him in this list because I think he's more ideal, and I think he deserves to be a boss because thinking of games of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, you had to fight him, and he was a boss that you had to beat, and he was a boss for Sandy, if you can believe it. Sandy had to fight the Flying Dutchman. It wasn't SpongeBob, so Battle for Bikini Bottom, and even in the rehydrated remaster, you had to fight the Flying Dutchman with Sandy, which was even crazier. So that'll be something that they could possibly take from those games, and it'll be a cool little boss fight. Now, let's go back.
Training.
I just wanted to show that. For Rugrats, I wanted to go with, it took me back, so I had to do some digging and some research. I forgot the name of the episode and when this exact appearance was for Angelicatron. We should be able to fight Angelicatron. What do you guys think of that? Nice little Rugrats throwback and a tribute, since Angelica probably won't be in the game, even though I like her to be in the game. Angelicatron could be a boss to reference the Super Diaper Babies episode, and she was the main villain causing the ruckus. Capturing the heroes and the Super Diaper Babies were on the case to be able to rescue the heroes. It was Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil, and they all had their own little powers, their own little superpowers and things like that. That what they can do. Tommy could transform into different animals, things like that. You know what I mean? Just for examples. But Angelicatron, I would love to see the devs put her in as a nice little boss fight, and she's giant, and it'll be a nice little battle that we'll be able to run into, and it pays tributes to Rugrats, to the worlds of Rugrats. Anybody remember Angelicatron? So I wanted to put her in this list, and just wanted to bring it up as a little bit of nostalgia. That's another good choice. Let's head over to CatDog's world. What do you guys think about the Greasers? I don't remember all their names, but I think Shriek was one of them. I think that was the small one, or the smallest of the trio. But I don't remember the other names of the Greasers. The Greasers would be awesome, where you fight all three of them, and then maybe Shriek, for example, will have a certain amount of hit points with a health bar, and then the other two come in. Once you beat her and you get the other ones, or defeat her, you get the other ones will come into the fight and join in, or they all fight you at once to make it even more difficult. And then they tag each other in and just swap out, or they can share the same amount of hit points all together as a little bit of an idea. They'll all share the same idea, and they'll come out on the fight into the battlefield, or onto the battlefield, and do different things, different abilities and moves to try to slow you down. And then maybe some of them, one or two of them, or maybe one of them could come in to try to interfere and distract you, try to lock you down and just stun you for a little bit, and they can hit you and launch you. So the Greasers, it'll be really awesome to see them get added into the game. I don't see anybody bring them up. They're not playable characters, make them a trio. Why not put them into a boss fight to pay tribute and reference CatDog? It's more reps like that. And see how, they got Shredder in the game? Just wanted to bring this. See how they got this? Shredder, he's an iconic villain. But what if they had Super Shredder? I put him in my list. Shredder could still be a playable character, but another part of him, Super Shredder, see how he was, and see how dangerous he was and crazy. He went in Teenage Mutant or TMNT, Shredder's Revenge. He's tough, and he can have some of those similar moves alike to be able to be going crazy on the battlefield as a boss fight. So if Shredder gets the boot and gets moved to a boss fight, I will be cool with that. So then, instead of this little costume, he'll be Super Shredder. But I would rather have him be in a roster. But Super Shredder seems more ideal also, so he can be able to be an additional boss. The Ninja Turtles have fought several villains. Dr. Stockman, he could probably be in it. Crane, Bebop and Rocksteady. How about that? Bebop and Rocksteady with Super Shredder. I put them in it though. I went with Bebop and Rocksteady and Super Shredder. And Super Shredder for some additional picks for TMNT. Just those two But they have so many villains that can get in. Dr. Stockman, possibly, just like I mentioned. Leatherhead, Metalhead, things like that. I already said Crane. And Crane appears in the background in Michelangelo's stage, the Technodrome, for this game. So they got a lot of different villains that they take on. The Turtles, and since all four of them are in, it'll be unique. So that they will be able to have those different voice lines if they encounter that boss. Unique interactions, things like that. But now, let's head into Jimmy Neutron's world. So we got Hugh Neutron up in here. Wonder what's gonna happen to him. But anyway, I selected Professor Calamitous. The one person that's known for never finishing anything. Who couldn't finish anything. Professor Calamitous, he would be perfect for Jimmy Neutron, for a perfect boss that he can take on. And he can be in that the Calamibot. Or the Calamibot, because I remember putting that as a moveset for him, for Professor Calamitous. If he was a playable character, he would be in that Calamibot or Calamibot that he invented when he introduced himself to Jimmy Neutron. And then another villain, how about King Goobot? One or the other, maybe even both of them. King Goobot from the Jimmy Neutron movie. I think that'll be even more fitting too. So either one, Professor Calamitous and King Goobot, I would select them for little iconic villains for Jimmy Neutron, be boss fights. Now let's jump into the world of Avatar. Just gonna almost wrap up here. Just like I was saying before, when the game came out, well, the game didn't come out yet, but when the game got revealed, we only have just a couple characters from the Avatar Last Airbender. What about a Fire Nation rep? If Zuko's not going to be in it, I don't think he's going to be a boss. I think he's going to be a playable character. But I selected Azula and Firelord Ozai from the world of Avatar Last Airbender to rep the Fire Nation, and they're just some of the most dangerous characters in the show anyway. Azula is powerful, and then Firelord Ozai calling the shots for the Fire Nation. Why not have him be a boss fight that's into the game? He could be a character too. Azula can be a playable character too. We're not gonna take nothing from them. Azula and Firelord Ozai for sure can be playable characters. But I put them in this list for bosses I would like to see, and I think that could probably have a potential appearance to pop up in that mode. And then, last but not least, I went and, as much as I would like to see her to be a playable character, she deserves to be one. Queen Vexus. How about Queen Vexus being a boss if she's not picked up as DLC or end up being in the roster? She could be a playable, I keep on saying a playable boss. That could work too, but guess we'll see. But Queen Vexus could be a boss just as she deserves to be just as much as she deserves to be a playable character in this roster. So just to mix it up, I didn't want to just have Vexus try to take on these characters by herself. Have Queen Vexus, the developers can bring Queen Vexus into the boss realm to take on, and you can be able to take on the Cluster Prime. I think that'll be unique. How about Vexus and the Cluster Prime can be able to fight, and you can just be able to take them on as a boss fight? I think that'll be unique. How about that? I think that'll be really awesome to do. But I think that's something that just some ideas just to throw around, just for some boss fights and things like that. I'm hoping that they add some of these characters, maybe some of them. But I think one of these characters are probably going to end up getting picked. I could be wrong. Even if it's none of these characters as a boss fight and they go with other ones, I'm completely fine with that too. But these are just some other ideas. And just before I wrap up, even if some of these characters are not in it for the boss fights, they can do future updates for some of these characters, new boss fights, new bosses to battle, and then when you beat them, you can probably be able to unlock them as characters. They can do something like that. And soon, see how I just earlier when I referenced Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 and the Kart Racer series from 2 and 3, because they didn't have boss fights in the first game, of course. But you defeat the character, defeat the boss, you get the character. They can do something like that, and they can expand. Beat that boss, high level boss, and it's not going to be an easy fight. Get a couple tries, gotta start all over, and then when you win, they can become playable, and they can be locked behind that challenge from that high difficulty, especially since it's going to play like a roguelike. It's not going to be easy. So that could be something that they can make it worth your while. You get that character that you wanted or one of your favorite villains in battle. I think that'll be perfect. But let me know what y'all think. This is just a little bit of some ideas for bosses and some of the characters that I like. There's so many villains I can name. Danny Phantom has a lot of them, but I already just settled with Vlad Plasmius because he's already in the game, basically. But I'm not sure if he's going to be playable. But he's already one of the main villains anyway. Danny Phantom has plenty. TMNT has some good ones. Could have slipped in Man Ray. I could have. But I didn't just want to go too crazy with them. There's so many other options. Dirty Bubble. Man Ray already just mentioned. Doodle Bob. He could be one. Let's try to erase SpongeBob. He can erase SpongeBob for forever. I think that'll be perfect. Just funny just to see. SpongeBob versus Doodle Bob. He needs to be a character. There's just so many great choices. I don't know who's a villain in the Loud House though. I just didn't want to make it drag on. But I feel like they can do so much more with this game, with the bosses. So I can't wait to see how that all plays out. And they can do more bosses, add them in, and be able to have them as future additional updates with new bosses for us to fight as time goes on. New boss updates, battle them, and even if they're not playable characters, it'll still work for the game because it'll keep people playing and it brings more content to the game itself.